Good Yom Tov. We currently find ourselves in the midst of the Hebrew month of Kislev. On the Jewish calendar, the calendar year begins with Rosh Hashanah, which is the month of Tishrei. The third month is Kislev, probably most popular for the festival of lights, Chanukah, which is at the end of the month, on the 25th of Kislev. However, in more recent generations, many very special, miraculous, redemptive events took place. Tonight, we will focus on one, and perhaps the greatest of all days. And this is on the Hasidic calendar, Yud Tes Kislev, the 19th of the month of Kislev, which we are approaching. Very briefly, a little bit of background. The first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the founder of the Lubavitch Chabad philosophy, teachings, and way of life, known as the Alter Rebbe, the old rabbi. His name is Rabbi Schneur Zalman of Liadi. Very, very interesting biography of his life, which I'm not going to go into now, and you can look it up, and there are books and volumes. Very interesting, very important. He was slandered, he was arrested, and the accusations were that he's rebelling against the Russian government, against the Tsar. And it was all completely false. But his life was in danger, literally. Very, very interesting, very, very detailed story of his arrest and ultimately his liberation. This took place in the Jewish year of Tov Kuf Nun Tes, 55-59, which would correspond to 1798. He was released from prison on the 19th of Kislev. Hence, thereafter, every year, this day is celebrated worldwide, surely by his followers, by the Hasidim, Chabad Hasidim, and in general, by all Hasidim, and even by all Jews. In today's class, we are going to bring in and show the relevance, the direct relevance to the non-Jewish world. Seemingly, there isn't much of a connection between the 19th of Kislev and the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach, or the non-Jewish world. Officially, so to say, the time, the date in which the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach, who is the 7th Rebbe from the Alter Rebbe, who is the first, began the campaign of promoting and educating and spreading and fulfilling the 7 Noachide commandments, was in the Jewish year of Tavshin Mem Gimel, 5743, which would be 1982. Although we did begin beforehand, at least a year earlier, but this is what has been marked as the day. It was at the Farbrengen, at the Hasidic gathering of the 19th of Kislev that year. It was broadcast via satellite for everyone to be able to see it live, which in those days, for those of you that could remember that far back, the early 1980s, was a different world. So to be able to view something live all over the world was very special, very unique. And several times a year, the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach would gathered together thousands of people in his synagogue in 770 and would speak for hours and hours with intervals of singing Hasidic melodies and saying L'chaim, holding up a little cup of wine and saying L'chaim. On the 19th of Kislev, in the year Tavshin Mem Gimel, 1982, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach explained the connection of the 19th of Kislev to the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach, to the non-Jewish world at large, etc. Subsequently, that talk was transcribed and edited by the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach himself, and ultimately published in Likkutei Sichos, which is the official set of books, of the talks, of the sermons of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. This is volume Chafei 25, which is on the book of Bereshis primarily, page 186. This volume is in Yiddish. And these are the words of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. And this is a basic and, in a sense, a fundamental talk of his, introducing Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and connecting it to the 19th of Kislev. The 19th of Kislev is referred to as Rosh Hashanah for Chasidus. And this is a very, very intense day, a very powerful day, a day that great new godly revelations come down to the world every year, annually. Similar to Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year, which is the beginning of creation, annually, and so forth. What I would like to do is to read this sicha, this talk, inside and translate. Instead of giving an overview or a synopsis, which perhaps at the end will summarize it, but I would like to learn it with you inside. That's what we've been doing lately with various different texts. We're reading it inside and translating. So again, for those that would like to follow along inside, would like to get a copy of it, this is volume 25 of Likkutei Sichos, page 186. It is the Sicha of Yud Tes Kislev. Let us begin. Yud Tes Kislev kommt uns allemal besmichus zu Parshas Vayishlach. In die Yemei HaShavua, was misparchen von Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach, oder in Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayishlach Atzma. The 19th of Kislev always falls out right around the Torah portion of Vayishlach, in the book of Genesis, Vayishlach, where Jacob, Yaakov, has just left the home of his father-in-law and uncle, Lavan, Laban, and he's on his way to go and meet, to encounter his brother, his twin brother, Esav. And then we have some more episodes in this Torah portion with regards to the life of Jacob and his children. So the 19th of Kislev always falls out right around that Torah portion, when on Shabbos, that is the portion that's read in all synagogues. Val Pizeh, move on, as in Parshas Vayishlach, kemen gefinnen remazim. So based on that, it is understood that in the portion of Vayishlach we can find hints. Unochmer, hashayches, zu dem Chag HaGeula von Yud Tes Kislev. And more than just hints, we can actually find an association between the Torah portion of Vayishlach and the 19th of Kislev. Nothing is coincidental. Now mind you that we've been reading Vayishlach as the Torah portion for many, many years. And the story of Yud Tes Kislev has only been since 1798. But yet, because it fell out in this Torah portion in the week of Vayishlach, therefore, there is surely a connection and something in the portion of Vayishlach we can connect to the 19th of Kislev. In sein Brief zu Reb Levi Yitzchak Barditchever, was der alte Rebbe hat geschrieben, herausgehendig von Tfisa, wo is moidia wegen sein Befreiung. In the letter which the Alter Rebbe wrote to Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchever. Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchever was another one of the disciples of the Mezritcher Magid. So he was a colleague and friend, a close friend of the Alter Rebbe. He's known as a very saintly person, a great tzaddik, Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Very, very famous, very, very well known till this day. And actually, their grandchildren married, so they became what we call in the Jewish world michutanim. When one's children or grandchildren marry, so then the in-laws of each are family by association of their children or grandchildren's marriage. So the Alter Rebbe and the Berditchever were michutanim. When the Alter Rebbe was freed, one of the letters that he wrote was a letter to his friend, Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. And in the letter, he informs him that he has been released, he's been freed from his imprisonment. Schreibt der Alter Rebbe. So in that letter, the Alter Rebbe writes, Zwischen andere, amongst other things. And now we quote, and the letter is in Hebrew. Ki hiflo Hashem v'higdil laseis ba'aretz. Hashem, God, has done wondrous and great thing in the land. V'hifli v'higdil shmoy agadol v'akodesh. And he has exalted his great name, and he has made great and his great holy name. Asher niskadol v'niskadesh barabim, which has become great and sanctified in public, amongst the masses. Ubifrat, and particularly, be'enei kol hasarim, in the eyes of all the ministers, v'chol ho'amim, and all the nations, asher b'chol medinois hamelech, which are in all of the provinces or all the countries of the king. He's poetically using a term from Megillas Esther, where it speaks about the story of Purim. Asher gam be'eineihem, that even in their eyes, yipolei hadavar, in the eyes of the nations of the world, the non-Jews, in the eyes of the great ministers and officers, it is very bewildering, very surprising. Hafle vafele, extremely wondrous. Ve'anu ve'omru al zois, and they respond, they say with regards to this event, Ki'im me'eis havaya ha'yisazois, hi niflas be'einenu. Again, paraphrasing from a verse in the book of Psalms, that this is from God himself, and he has made wondrous things in front of our very eyes. In other words, it was miraculous, and miraculous recognized by the nations. So the Alter Rebbe is immediately in this letter to his friend, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchever, bringing in the nations of the world, the non-Jewish people, in the Yud Tes Kislev story. Weil derech ze schreibt in sein Brief zu der Baruch Mimezhibush. And so too, the Alter Rebbe writes similarly in his letter to another one of the Hasidim, Reb Baruch of Mezhibush, which was grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidus. Das heißt, this means to say, dem Teuchen Inyan HaGeula verbindet der Alter Rebbe mit der Peula, was das hat gehat, auf kol hasarim v'chol ha'amim. The content of this redemption of the 19th of Kislev, the Alter Rebbe is connecting it with all of the ministers and all the nations. Was kamuvan, that is, as is understood, as b'shas nit Eden, zen, an Inyan Pelle, von dem Ebersten, verbunden mit Aiden, when non-Jews see something wondrous with the conduct of God and the Jew, und sie anerkennen, and they recognize, as meis havaya hoisazois, that this is indeed from God himself, is das zei moirer und mesayeya, that awakens and assists the non-Jews, that their conduct should be appropriate, in accordance with the command of God. They should behave according to God's commandment to them. That the point of what does God want of them, it's the fulfillment, the observance of the 7 Noachide commandments. So that is the benefit and that is the importance of the non-Jews witnessing how God miraculously interacts and behaves, if we can say that, with and toward the Jew in a miraculous way. That will awaken and arouse the non-Jew and assist him in doing what he's got to do, and that is the 7 Noachide commandments. Inyan zeh, this idea, die Wirkung von Yidden auf Bnei Noach Bnei Geya, dem Kiyum von Zeir Mitzvahs, this idea of the awakening that the Jews have to the Bnei Noach, that they, the Bnei Noach, should fulfill and keep their mitzvahs, is there Toichem v'nekuda von Maaseh Shechem b'Parshasenu, and that fits into this week's Torah portion. In Vayishlach, we have an episode of Shechem. To remind you, basically, when the Jewish people, meaning the family, Jacob, his wives, and his children, when they arrive in a certain city, his daughter, Jacob's daughter Dinah, was kidnapped and raped by the son of the head of the king of that place. And there was a terrible crime, and by that point already they had the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and the non-Jews already took upon themselves not to commit adultery or anything like that. And here they transgressed at least 2 of the 7 Noachide commandments by kidnapping the young lady and tormenting her like that. And 2 of the sons of Jacob came up with a plan. They tricked them, and they had them all circumcise themselves. And then these 2 boys went out and they killed the entire city out. And then Jacob was worried about that. And the reason they killed them all out is, as explained elsewhere, is because they actually were all transgressors of the 7 Noachide commandments. That's briefly what takes place in one of the sections in this week's Torah portion of Vayishlach. And now we're going to mention that. Das was Shimon v'Levi haben geharget die Anshe Shechem, that which Shimon and Levi, son number 2 and 3 of Jacob, of the 12 tribes, the older brothers of Dinah, Shimon and Levi killed out all the people of Shechem. Is given an Einesh for them, was they haben nicht mekayim given die Zayin mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Was a punishment for the fact that they did not keep the 7 Noachide commandments. So it wasn't merely revenge or some way to get their sister back or done out of anger or whatever. It was because they felt that all of these people are transgressors. And now, in the brackets, we're going to very briefly explain how and what they transgressed. Zider far was they haben nicht gemishpet Schemen far sein Chet, whether it's because the people, the entire people of Shechem, failed to judge Shechem, that's also his name, for his crime, for his sin. They didn't bring him to justice. That itself could cause all of them to be liable to be put to death. Varum eine von design mitzvahs bnei Noach is dinin. Chayovin lo yishiv dayan in chulu ladun b'sheish mitzvahs elu. Because one of the 7 Noachide commandments, of course, is dinim, to set up a court system. And as the Rambam explains, that they're supposed to have a system which upholds and judges people for the other 6. And for this very reason, all of the people of the city of Shechem had to be put to death. Shechem gazal, for Shechem stole, And they saw this, they knew about it, and they didn't judge him. If they wouldn't know about it, then you can't. What are you going to say? Someone did something, and there's no... They knew. Everybody knew. He made it public. Wie der Rambam sagt. All right, this is Maimonides' explanation as to why they killed out Shechem. This is what the Rambam says in the Laws of Kings, where he discusses the 7 Noachide commandments. Oder, or alternatively, another explanation as to how we find that they transgressed the 7 Noachide commandments. Wie der Ramban sagt, as Nachmanides says in his commentary to this week's Torah portion, Farzeyere eigene sind, for their own sin, was sie seinen begangen noch far meise dina. Even before this holy event, before the whole story, they themselves were transgressors. And therefore they had to be put to death independently of this whole story. Be that as it may, according to the Rambam and the Ramban, and many other commentaries, they were transgressors of the 7 Noachide commandments. So here we see Parshas Vayishlach clearly deals with the 7 Noachide commandments, and Yud Tes Kislev, the Alter Rebbe, is connecting the awakening and the arousal of the non-Jewish world to the miraculous redemption of the 19th of Kislev. Men darf aber verstehen. However, we need to understand. Jeder Inyan, was trefft sich in Welt, ist doch Bashkacha Protis von dem Eibishten. Every single thing without exception, any and every event that transpires in the world is direct divine providence. It's clearly from God. Every world event, anything and everything that ever happens. Valachas kama v'kama, an inyan was is verbunden mit Yidin und v'shaychus zu Torah mitzvahs. How much more so? Something which is connected to a Jew and related to Torah and its commandments, the observance of commandments. And how much more so when you're talking about the leader of the Jewish people of the time? And within that leader's lifetime, which we're talking about the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman, in connection with the revelation of Chasidus, because the 19th of Kislev marks the revelation of Chasidus in an unprecedented way. So anything and everything that happens is not coincidental. As a matter of fact, we do not have coincidence or coincidental in our lexicon. Everything is of divine providence. How much more so with the Jew and with Torah and mitzvahs and the leader and a connection with Torah mitzvahs, with the revelation of Chasidus, I mean. Asher al kain, therefore, his muvan is understood. As is nicht shaykh sagen, as der Meister v'geula seien gekommen, der Fahr, was Malchus de Lamata hat in dem gehat adeo memshala. Therefore, our approach is, we cannot say that the Alter Rebbe's arrest and incarceration had anything to do, or was because, I should say, I'm not going to say, I retract, not that it had nothing to do. It is not simply and merely because the government down here in Russia decided so. Even if the reason for the Alter Rebbe's arrest came because of slander from other Jews. And when it comes to a Jew has true freedom of choice. So without getting into the whole philosophical discussion, one could say, well, then it's, so to say, out of God's control by choice, because he says, I'm giving you freedom of choice. Nonetheless, nothing is out of God's control. Nothing is out of God's doing. At any rate, the Alter Rebbe being arrested, being incarcerated, and being redeemed miraculously, it's all directly from above. Nor der Meiser is given kayadua verbunden mit den Demoltiken Kitrug auf dem Gilui von Rosen der Reise durch dem Alten Rebbe. However, what happened then? So it's known that the Alter Rebbe's arrest was connected with the new accusation against him on high, on spiritual planes, in heaven. The forces of evil against the forces of holiness. So there was an accusation brought in the heavenly court against the Alter Rebbe. And that is, he's revealing the secrets of the Torah. And it's too much. And therefore the forces of evil said, this is going against God's system. It's too much. God gave the Torah at Sinai? Yes. There are godly revelations? Yes. The Torah has many novel ideas? Yes. But the secrets of the Torah are supposed to remain secret. And the Alter Rebbe is revealing too much. Heyoisas Torah atzma ruft es on sosim deiraisa. The Torah itself refers to this part of the Torah as the esoteric part of the Torah, the hidden, the concealed, the closed part of the Torah. B'meila darf es sein sosim. Therefore, it has to remain closed. Unit arabkumen begilui vigal yeshabatera, and not come down in a revealed way as the exoteric, as the revealed part of the Torah. Torah itself identifies revealed, concealed. So if you're going to totally reveal the concealed, then it's not concealed anymore. So you're going against the Torah, seemingly. So that was the claim, basically, in heaven. Und die Geula ist gekommen durch dem, was ist bottel geworden der Kitrug. And the redemption on the 19th of Kislev came through the fact that this accusation and this claim against him was nullified. In heaven, the verdict was that no. Underfar hat ben dolle mato befreit dem alten Rebben. And therefore down here the Alter Rebbe was freed. Not because some officer or some court system or the Tsar. No. It's because on high, the heavenly court ruled that he is to be freed. When hat gekent megala sein pnimis atera teres achsidis, and the ruling was that he, the Alter Rebbe, was able to reveal the hidden esoteric part of the Torah, namely the teachings of what's known as Chassidus. All right, that's the story. That's the story behind the story. Historically, what happened? You can go to the history books. You can find out exactly what happened. We know exactly, and there are documents. Every detail, incredible. We know what happened. That's what happened down here. But what's really going on, so that we were told by our Abayim, the story behind the story, the truth, what's going on in heaven. Das heißt, this means to say, as the Geula von Yud Tes Kislev is given a Geula Ruchnis Farklolus Gilui Teres HaChasidus Teres HaBal Shem Tov. That means to say that the redemption of the 19th of Kislev was not merely a redemption for one individual Jew, which would already be a great thing, especially such a righteous, saintly person, the leader of the generation, the Alter Rebbe. But it's much more than that. It was not only personal. It was the redemption for the revelation of Chasidus, which is already 2 generations prior to the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov. Rebbe Yisrael, Baal Shem Tov, which means master of the good name, is the one through whom God revealed Chasidus to the world. In stages. The first one was the Baal Shem Tov. And then his main disciple and successor, the Mezritcher Magid, Reb Dov Ber, and then his main disciple and successor, the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe sat in prison for Chasidus, and Chasidus was on trial in heaven. And Yud Tes Kislev is when the verdict from on high came down into this world. So in time and space, it's the 19th of Kislev in Petersburg, Russia. Ukayadua, as der Ringen von Yefutzu meine Secha Chutza, Hafotza Steres Abal Shem Tov, hat sich weiter angeheben nach der Geula von Yud Tes Kislev. And as it's known, that the idea of the spreading, the bursting forth of the wellsprings of Chassidus primarily began after the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev, after that story. And this is these words are a reference to the following story. In a letter that the Baal Shem Tov wrote, he describes what happened to him in a particular Rosh Hashanah. While he was physically alive in this world, he had his soul went up on high to heaven, and he describes in detail his experience and how he goes from one level to the next and from one chamber to the other in the spiritual worlds. And he reaches the chamber of Mashiach, of the Messiah, in heaven. And the Baal Shem Tov asks the soul of King Mashiach, Amosai Ka'asi Mar, when are you going to arrive? The question that everybody is asking, that everybody is wondering, and everybody wants to know, the Baal Shem Tov asked the man himself, when are you coming? And Mashiach answered the Baal Shem Tov, when your teachings of Chassidus, when your wellsprings will spread forth, will break through and go outward, chutza. All right? Ever since then, it became the theme and the goal and the philosophy to spread the teachings of Chassidus. And the Baal Shem Tov, after having this experience, obviously did that. His disciple, the Mezritcher Magid, continued to do that. And the Alter Rebbe continued to do that. But nothing can compare to how it was done after Yud Tes Kislev story. That is the point, that is the demarcation point of when we say that Chassidus really began to spread forth. Ulefi zeh is nit move on. So based on what we just gave, this whole explanation, now, says the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, it's not understood. What's the question? Wie kommt es, as b'michtavoi, b'psuras hageula, soll der alte Rebbe a Ruiz bringen, das was die Befreiung hat aufgetan, dem Inyan von Hifli, Chuli, Beine, Kol Asorim, V'chol Amim, Asher B'chol Medines HaMelech, Asher Gam Beinem, Yipolei Adover, Hafle V'fele, Vonu V'omru Al Zeis, Ki Im Eis Havai Ois Zois Ini Flos Beninu. So why is the Alter Rebbe in his letter to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev making a big deal of the impression that his redemption had on the non-Jewish world, on the nations of the world? What does that have to do with anything? That almost seems like he's reducing it to an event that happened to him, and that he was released by the non-Jews, and it was miraculous, so therefore all the ministers and officers in the nations of the world saw this and they were impressed. Well, what's going on over here? I thought we just said there's a story behind the story. It's all about revealing and teaching and spreading and bursting through Chassidus. That's the question. Why does the Alter Rebbe, if that's what Yud Tes Kislev is really all about, explain the impression that it has on the non-Jew? Fosforat tfisas mokim hot ot der inyan im kol ha'iloi anifla sheboy legabe dem etzem geula gilui von klos pnimis ha'teira. How can you compare what the Alter Rebbe is describing in this letter? How can you compare that with all of its great miraculous impression? It's true. Compare that to the fact that now Chassidus is to become revealed. There's no comparison. And therefore, what is Yud Tes Kislev all about? The deepest part of the Jewish soul. Was der Gilui von Sasim der Reisa poilt euch dem Gilui von Sasim den Ishmasa, als der Limud HaTorah v'kiyum mitzvahs von Ayidin soll sein durchgenommen mit Emunah b'Hashem v'avas Hashem v'yirasoi. The revelation of the secrets, of the esoteric part of the Torah, is associated with the esoteric, the deepest part of the Jewish soul. And now, because of the revelation of Chasidus, the Jew is able to study Torah and to fulfill the commandments of the Jew, as they are through and through permeated with the faith, the belief in God, love of God, and fear of God. So why in the world is the Alter Rebbe bringing in the impression that it had on the non-Jews? That seems like it's almost insignificant. Here, this great thing is happening, and how does the Alter Rebbe choose to describe the great event of Yud Tes Kislev? Miracles of miracles that impressed and were witnessed by the non-Jews. The Alter Rebbe is mamshich in dem brief. The Alter Rebbe continues in this letter to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev, and we quote, "Vatiyah zois lepele, ki Hashem itanu ve'inoid." And this became very wondrous, amazing, that Hashem is with us and there's nothing else. Ulefize kumtuis lechoira, and according to this, seemingly what comes out is, as das was euch kol asarim v'chol ha'amim haben gesehen dem Pelle v'anu v'amru ki im eis Hashem ha'is azois cholu. The fact that all of the ministers and the nations of the world saw this wonder, and they all said it's from God. Hat das aruis gebracht die Gerechtigkeit von dem alten Rebben v'teres achsidus far di menagdim chulu. This actually brought out the justice, the righteousness of the Alter Rebbe and of Chassidus for the opposition, for those that opposed him. And without getting into detail, but it was slander, and it was really, opposition was from fellow Jews that were against the Chassidim, whoever knows the Jewish history at that time. But now that the non-Jewish world came to recognize and witnessed, that showed the righteousness to all the opposers. Wir können aber nicht sagen, als das ist der ganze Tam, für was der alte Rebbe hat geschrieben, dem Pelle Adove Beine Kol Asorim Chulu. But you can't say that that's the whole reason why the Alter Rebbe wrote it. In order to show that now there's no opposition to Chassidus. In the heavenly court, no opposition anymore. And therefore down here, no one can oppose it anymore. That's it. That's the verdict. And the proof is because of non-Jews. That can't be the whole reason why the Alter Rebbe is focusing on the non-Jews. Warum? Because, Aleph, A, Zudem ist nicht negeya die Arichus in dem Pelle sheba Geula, as euch beine kol asarim v'chol ha'amim mipolei hadover. It's irrelevant, the whole lengthy language of the Alter Rebbe. He's going on and on over here about how it was so wondrous and so miraculous and so amazing in the eyes of the officers and the ministers and the nations. Nor der Retzem Inyan, as euch die Sarim Chulu haben anerkennt die Gerechtigkeit von dem alten Rebbe. All that's relevant, if that's the reason, is that the ministers realized and recognized that the Alter Rebbe is innocent. That's all. Uvemele hat men ihm aruis gelost techerus, and therefore they let him out free. They freed him. That's all. That's all it had to say. B, the second reason why that can't be all. Dem brief hat der Alter Rebbe geschrieben kamur zu Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Barditchever und der Baruch Mezhibush, welche haben sicher gewusst und verstanden dem Geudel v'afloas in a Geula als Geula von Teres HaChasidus. The Alter Rebbe is writing this letter to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev and to Rebbe Baruch of Mezhibush. They surely knew and understood the awesome, amazing idea of the redemption, that this is a redemption of Chasidus. They understood that. Uvemele, Was für Tfisas Mokem hat beine Gdoile Yisrael die Ashpoas HaGeula auf die Sorim als das, was ist Megale Leini Amenagdim ki Hashem itanu. Be'erech dem Iker HaGeula Gilui Torah Chasidus. So why is the Alter Rebbe writing to them the influence and the impact that the story and the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev, his redemption, had on the nations of the world? Why is he writing this to the great Jewish leaders when they have a real appreciation of what Yud Tes Kislev is all about? That it's the redemption of Chasidus. Und wissendig dem Geudel Adiuk in L'shoinoi Hazov von Alten Rebbe Bichlal. Now, knowing the tremendous precision of the Alter Rebbe's golden tongue, when the Alter Rebbe writes something, we take every word and every letter with such care, and we say it's so perfect. All of his writings, whether it's the Code of Law, which the Alter Rebbe wrote, known as the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish Code of Law, or whether it's the Tanya, the basic book of Chassidus, the Tanya, written by the Alter Rebbe, or any of his other works, something which the Alter Rebbe wrote, or in this case the letter, is precise and is exact beyond imagination. And especially since this letter, with making the impression on the non-Jews, was written immediately after his release. Und in a brief, was hat geschrieben zu Gdoile Yisrael, and it's in a letter which he wrote to great Jewish leaders. People that were great also in the inner dimensions of Torah, not only in the revealed part of Torah. Is move on, as in them derikt sich uis a teichen ikri in der Geula von Yud Tes Kislev. Therefore, we have to say, it's understood that in this letter, there is a very fundamental theme of what the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev is all about. It's not just, oh yeah, the Goyim also were impressed. No. Because if that were to be the case, as we said, he could have written it with much less words and the whole argument that we made. Not necessary. Taking into consideration who he wrote it to and all those details. So, right now, we're building the case, presenting that somehow, very important and very fundamental of the redemption of the 19th of Kislev has to do with the effect and the impression that it had on the non-Jewish ministers and on all the nations. So what is it? Page 188, left-hand column. And we are now going to say the explanation. The Rebbe Melech HaMashiach is now introducing the explanation. But first we have to preface. Sie ist Yedua, was der Baal Shem Tov schreibt in a brief. It's known what the Alter Rebbe writes in a letter of his. Zayndik, as Zayndik Beichol Shel Mashiach, that while he was in the chamber of Mashiach, had gefragt by Mashiach, Emosai Kosimar, that the Baal Shem Tov asked Mashiach, when are you coming? Und Mashiach hat ihm geantwortet, and Mashiach answered him, when your wellsprings will burst forth, outer. Und wie bald als der Ekerinin von Afotzes Amayones, von Baal Shem Tov Chutza, hat sich angegeben von der Geula von Yud Tes Kislev Kanal, and since the main fulfillment of spreading and bursting forth the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, Chutza, outward, really began with the redemption of the 19th of Kislev, as we said. Kumt uis, so what comes out according to that, as the Geula von Alten Rebben bei Yud Tes Kislev is a hachana v'akdama zu der Geula haklolis v'ashlema bebias Mashiach tzidkenu. So it comes out that the Alter Rebbe's redemption of the story of the 19th of Kislev is nothing less than the preparation for the ultimate redemption, the complete and the true redemption through Mashiach, through the Messiah. Because 1 + 1 = 2. It's very simple over here. The Baal Shem Tov, who brought in and introduced Chassidus to the world, asks Mashiach, when are you, Mashiach, coming? Mashiach answers the Baal Shem Tov, when your teachings, Chassidus, spreads out. Chassidus began to really spread out with the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev. Very simple. So Yud Tes Kislev is the preparation, it is the forerunner, it is leading to the ultimate redemption. The remes is, the truth is, as jeder Geula von a Yidin, afilu von a Ish achi pashut, welcher is nicht kein Baal Madrega, hat a Sheiches zu der Geula Klolis von Klal Yisrael. Kiven the Shem Geula Allah. Every and any redemption of every and any Jew, actually, even if the Jew is not a person of high stature or on a high level, he's not a high level person, but he had a redemption, that has an association with the general redemption for the Jewish people at large. As the Talmud uses the expression, because it has the term of Geula, redemption. Even though it's a personal thing. The guy was kidnapped or was captured or was incarcerated, and now he went free. That freedom is not only personal. Und sie ist euch verstandig bepashtus der Tamadover. And it's also understood very simply why, the reason for this. Der Teichen HaGeula bebias HaMashiach is doch bescheichus zu alle drei. The theme of the redemption through Mashiach, what we're waiting for, the ultimate redemption, which we are on the threshold of, is in connection with all three. Yisrael, Oiraisa, V'kutsha Brichu, V'chazayin Kulachad. To quote the words of the Zohar, of the most mystical book of all, the Jew, the Torah, and God himself are all absolutely one. Varum, since, Kayadu as it's known, is Shchinta Begalusa. There's a concept that the divine presence of God, known as the Shekhinah, is also in exile. As long as there's exile in the world, as long as the Jews have been exiled, and we are not in the state that we belong, God, the Shekhinah, as it were, is also exiled. So on a small scale, so to say in a microcosmic way, this is accomplished by a personal redemption for a personal individual. As zusammen mit der Geula von dem Eden is das euch a Geula Pratis benegea di Teiro Mitzvahs, was is darf mekayim sein. V'meila di bechinas ha-Shechina, was gefindt sich begalus imoi. See, every Jew is supposed to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs, study Torah and do the commandments. So as long as the Jew is unable to do that, so he's in exile, and the Shekhinah, which is associated with him, is in exile. He's redeemed. Now he can fulfill the Torah and the mitzvahs that he wasn't able to do beforehand. That, in a sense, redeems the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God. Right? When Allah has kama v'kama, as dos is azoi by the Geula von Anosi b'Yisrael, how much more so? Surely this is how it is with regards to a redemption of the leader of the Jewish people. Wo sie is niker begalui, wie die Geula hat a Sheiches zu Klal Yisrael. Und zu an Inyan Klali b'Teira v'chulu. Where it's in a revealed way, it's so clear and open and obvious that his redemption has a direct connection to the Jewish people at large. And therefore, to the Torah in general. Benita indeed done, in our case at hand. Kommt noch zu, have even more, as der Teichen von der Geula, that the content, the theme of this redemption, a Geula von Pnimius v'Seides HaTorah, which is a redemption of the innermost dimensions, of the secrets, of the esoteric part of the Torah, is ein Inyan mit dem Teichen von der Geula Hasida, is one thing with the theme of the redemption, the future redemption, the ultimate redemption, the world redemption. Warum? Demot wird sich aufton die Shleimus Agiluf in Pnimis HaTorah. Because what's going to happen? Right now, on Yud Tes Kislev was the redemption of the inner part of Torah. And what's going to happen by the future redemption? The inner part of Torah will be completely redeemed / revealed. V'Rashi is mefarish af in pasuk yishakeini min shikais pihu, as the main classic commentary of Rashi explains on the second verse of the book of Shir HaShirim, of the Song of Songs by King Solomon. And over there, the words are, Yishakeni min shikais pihu. He will kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Says Rashi, what is that referring to? The whole book of Shir HaShirim is allegorical. As das meint, soid ta'ameha u mistar tzfunei seha fun Torah, welche vet niskale werden durch Mashiach Tzidkenu. The secret reasons, the very deep, hidden secret reasons for things in the Torah, for the mitzvahs, which were never revealed before, will become revealed. And that will be revealed through our righteous Mashiach. So in other words, what's going to happen at the redemption with Mashiach? The deepest secrets of Torah will become revealed. Umizeh, as das, was der alte Rebbe schreibt in sein Michtav Hanal, benegea der Gule von Yud Tes Kislev, wegen dem Hafle Vafele, euch beine kol asorim v'chol ha'amim, is das an Inyan Ikri in dem Verbund von der Geula mit der Geula Asida. Therefore, we can establish as follows. The fact that the Alter Rebbe in this letter of his to Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Berditchever makes a big deal and connects his redemption to the impact that it had on the nations of the world is obviously because that has a very primary and direct association with the future redemption. This redemption of Yud Tes Kislev is very much connected to the future redemption through Mashiach. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe is teaching over here that it has a very strong and direct effect on the non-Jew. And we could say the explanations as follows. All right, after all, there is the very famous prophecy. It's a verse in the book of Micha, which states, just as the days of your exodus from Egypt, I will show him wonders. Similar to the wonders and miracles that we witnessed when we left Egypt, so too, says this verse, with the future redemption through Mashiach. Die Geula und die Niflois, was wollen sein, le'asid lavoi, the redemption and the wonders which will take place in the future redemption, seinen bedugma zu der Geula und Niflois in the Yemei Tes Chomeretz Mitzrayim, is akin to, it is similar and can be compared to the redemption and the wonders when we left Egypt. So a lot of things we can see the association and we can understand the correlation between the future redemption through Mashiach and how it was by Mitzrayim when we left Egypt. Nor lasid lavoi veln zei sein in a hecheren Eufen. Niflois euch lagabe anisim von Yetzias Mitzrayim. The only thing is, in the times of Mashiach, by this redemption, they'll be much greater than the way they were when we left Egypt. They'll be wondrous compared to the miracles and the wonders. But still, it'll be the same idea, just much, much greater, on a much greater scale, but the same idea, like the days we left Egypt. Therefore is move on, so from this is understood, as dem Teichen Chidush del Asid can men uplernen von der Geula b'Yetzias Mitzrayim. So if you want to understand the process or understand the picture of the future redemption through Mashiach, you can get a picture to some great degree from the Exodus from Egypt. By Yetzias Ugiulas Mitzrayim hat sich aufgetan a chidush nit blois bescheiches zu Yidden. So by the Exodus and the redemption from Egypt, what was accomplished was not only some novelty or something with regards to the Jews. Kedei Yidden zon zayin roi to makabel zayin di Torah by Har Sinai, in order for the Jews to be fit to receive the Torah at Sinai, haben sie gemusst durchgehen und is dachech werden in dem Kura Barzel von Galus Mitzrayim, und der Gemar v'siu mazichuch v'abirur is given by Yitzias Mitzrayim. So they had to go through this cleansing process in the land of Egypt, sort of like the metal has to go through the heating process. So the Jews had to go through that. And now that we left Egypt, that means that we've completed and finished our preparations, our purification to be fit to receive the Torah. That's true, but it's not all. That's not all that the exile and then the subsequent exodus from Egypt was about. Nor, rather, oich far di Mitzrim gufa. It was for the Egyptians themselves and for the nations of the world in general. As the verse states clearly, God tells Moses, and Egypt will know that I am God. Paroi and Egypt, on their own right, from their own level, they have nothing to do with the name of God of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Paroi hat gesagt, as Par himself said, I don't know this Havaya, this Yud Kei Vav Kei that you're referring to. On their own right, they only have an association, they can only relate with God on the name of Elohim. The Yosef hat gesagt Parin, Elohim Yanes Shem Paroi. As Joseph said to Paroi when he first came into Egypt and when he was pulled out in order to interpret the dream, so Yosef says to Pharaoh, Elohim will answer your welfare. He'll tell you what the story is. He specifically used the name Elohim. But Shem Elohim is begematria hateva. The name Elohim has the numerical value as the word the nature. Every letter represents a number. Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, so forth. So you have the total number of Elohim is exactly the same as Hateva, the nature. V'hainu, meaning, as mitzad Shem Elohim is the Anoga, al pi teva, in welcher zet sich nit on begilui der Elohim. From the perspective of the name of God of Elohim, that is how God interacts with the world in what we call a natural way, and you do not see the godliness. It's God hidden in what's called nature. Aber die Anhage was is hecher von Teva. However, the conduct, God's conduct, which is higher than nature, Hanhaga Nisis, which we call miraculous conduct, breaking the laws of nature, Nemt sich von Shem Havaya. That comes from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Und zu dem haben Paroi und Mitzrayim und Mesolim kein Sheichus nit. And to this, Pharaoh, Egypt, and the nations of the world in general at large don't have any connection with. Their relationship, the non-Jews' relationship to God, is God of Elohim. Like it says right in the beginning of Genesis, first verse in the Torah, Genesis 1:1. Bereshis bara Elohim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. Who created in the beginning? Who created heavens and earth? Elohim. Ken shayches nit und haben in dem nit ken hasaga v'hakara. The nations of the world, they have no association with the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. They can't recognize that. But this is where the redemption from Egypt, the exodus from Egypt, accomplished this novelty and made this major change. What did it do? As v'yedu Mitzrayim k'ani Havaya. That the Egyptians will know that I am Havaya, I am Yud Tes Kislev. That's what God tells Moses. This whole story of the redemption from Egypt will make a change. And what's the change? They will recognize God on the level of beyond nature. In der Nisis shelamayla min hateva, was is verbunden mit Shem Havaya. That they now received knowledge and they can experience a miraculous conduct of God beyond nature, which is connected with the name Yud Tes Kislev. Bidugma lozeh, similar to this, nor in a fil hecher in oifen. Just what we're about to say now is in a much higher way. We just spoke about how it was in the redemption from Egypt, that now the Egyptians can know Havaya. Initially, Pharaoh claims, Lo yadaiti es Havaya, I don't know Yud Tes Kislev. And God says that through the redemption, they will know Havaya. But we have another example, just much greater. This is what's going to happen in the future to come. Remember, we say whatever happened by Egypt, we're able to understand from there, we're going to extrapolate from there to what's going to happen in the future redemption through Mashiach. Just then it'll be much greater. So just like Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus of Egypt, accomplished that now the non-Jew can appreciate and understand and relate to God of Yud Tes Kislev beyond nature. So in the future redemption through Mashiach, in addition to the fact that it will be the redemption of the Jew, the Torah, and God, in Welt by Alu Masaylam. The redemption is also going to have an effect on the world, on all the nations of the world. And as is explicit in a number of verses and prophecies about the future redemption. Wie der Rambam bringt euch herab in sein Sefer Halachas, so much so to the extent that as Maimonides, as the Rambam brings down in his book of Halachas, Jewish law, in the book of Mishnei Torah, that magnum opus of the Rambam's Mishnei Torah, everything there is straightforward Jewish law. So what does the Rambam say there? As dan, that then, in the time of the future redemption, Yisakin es ha'olam, Mashiach is going to correct the world. Shen ne'emar, and he quotes, Maimonides quotes a verse as a proof text from Tzfanya. Ki oz epoich el amim sofa v'rura, that at that time, says God, I am going to transform to the nations of the world a clear language, likroi kulam b'shem havaya, that they all will call out in the name Yud Tes Kislev, ulav d'shchem echad, and to serve, to worship God in one unit, as one. Clearly, the non-Jewish world, the non-Jews are going to call out to Yud Tes Kislev. Und der Yiyud benegeya diumay soilam is nicht stam a Zug of Zach, zu welcher mevet zoiche sein bevias Mashiach tzidkenu. Now says the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, this prophecy is not just something which, well, in the future, once Mashiach is here, once the redemption has happened, then we'll merit that. Then all the nations of the world will understand and will relate to Yud Tes Kislev, to the miraculous God beyond nature. No. Nor das is verbunden miten etzem minyan geula. This is something which is associated with the very core essence of the redemption. It's not just, well, one of the many good things that's going to happen. This is directly part of the essence of the redemption. Wie bald as demolt vet kaviochel di Shechina a ruisgein fun Galus, since at that time, with the redemption through Mashiach, the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, as it were, is going to go out of exile. Wird doch der Miet entplekt werden der Emes Havaya. So at that time, what's going to be revealed? If the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is going out of a state of exile, it's being redeemed, so then the truth of God himself, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, will become revealed. Namely, as kol animtzoi mishamayim v'aretz u'masha beineim, lo nimtzu elo me'amitas imotzoi. Quoting the beginning of the Rambam, Maimonides, right at the very beginning, the first halacha, the first ruling, the first teaching of the Rambam is that everything which exists from heavens and earth and in between, without any exception, only comes into existence, only exists from his, capital H, from God's true existence. True existence. Is their Shem Havaya. When you speak about God's true existence, that's the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's what that name represents, as opposed to the other names, such as Elikim. Which is higher than the nature of the world. In other words, as we said earlier, Bereishis bara Elikim. God created the world, heavens, earth, everything that we know and beyond. He created it using the name Elikim. That means to say that he has, so to say, condensed himself, hidden himself into what is referred to as nature. So much so that some people, including very intelligent people, can make a very, very serious mistake. It would be heresy. And they can make the mistake and think that there is no God, there is no creator, just nature. But even those people which don't make that mistake, and they understand that obviously there has to be a creator, there has to be this super being which precedes everything. Logically, there is no other way. But they only can associate and relate to this being which is the source of everything. But that's our whole relationship to him, is he is the source of all. That's the name Elikim. That's the creator of nature. But what is the true God? Beyond anything and everything. And that everything can only exist because he truly exists and nothing else can exist. Now that truth, to have that revealed, will be in the times of the redemption with Mashiach. And who is going to be privy to live that truth, to have that relationship with God, that God and God alone exists, and nothing else really exists? Not only the Jew, but the nations of the world too. They will have that godly revelation. And therefore the emphasis with regards to the future to come, to the Messianic era, what does the prophet say? And this is quoting from Isaiah, Yeshaya. V'nigla kvoid havaya, and the glory, the honor of Yud Kei Vav Kei will be revealed. V'ra'u chol basar yachtov, and every flesh will see together. Kipi havaya diber, that the mouth of Yud Kei Vav Kei, of God, havaya, has spoken. As der Gilui von Shem Havaya, v'nigla kvoid havaya, that poyol zayin a re'iyah muchshis, b'basar agashmi, as amitis mitziusoi von dem basar is pi havaya. The revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, of this intense godly level, is going to achieve an effect in such a way that it'll be visual, literally visual. Our eyes of flesh will see the absolute truth that what is the flesh, what is everything and anything? Pi havaya, the word, the mouth of God. In other words, we will no longer perceive or live a life of God is the creator, the almighty, master of all, and I'm part of the all. So he made me. And if not for him, I wouldn't be. That's the lower level. That's nature. That's the God of Elohim. The higher level is he is all. That's it. I am one with him. There is no external created entity. It isn't creator and created being, createe. That's splitting, that's separating. That means that God made something. No, it's beyond that. All there is God. And that level, that perception, that truth, living like that, is going to be in the Messianic era for all of mankind, for every flesh. Wie bald sie wird bottel werden, der Helen v'hester afalikus. Geula sashchida mikalusa. Since the concealment over godliness is going to become nullified, meaning the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, is going to be redeemed. It'll be leaving exile. Und sie wird entpleckt werden, and will become revealed, as the emes emetzius von Welt is elikus pi Havaya, that the true existence of the world is the mouth of Havaya. That's what the world really is. Wird es sein Beufen von V'rochel Basar. It'll be in such a manner that every flesh will see. As der Basar wird sein Kveid Havaya, that the flesh will see the glory of Havaya. Mitzad di damos di ketchunois und teva von dem Basar Gufa. And that will be because of the then nature and the character traits of the physical flesh, which will change. In dem Eufen, wie sie ist, die teva v'tchuna von eine Basar zu sein varm gashmiim. Just like now, the trait and the nature of a healthy eye is to see physical things. We can see physical things with our eyes, provided that I have the right lighting and the distance and all the factors that nature and physics are. So my eye can see certain things, and then that registers in my mind, and then I live according to that. I walk here and not there. I drive a car like this and like that. I fly an airplane like this and like that. Everything, literally every step I take is based on the vision that I have. Literally. Now what's going to happen? Because of this great godly revelation of Yud Ke Vav Ke, there's going to be a shift. That's going to change. And then the nature is going to be, we will see the truth just like now we see physical things with our eye. Our eye then is going to see the truth of Yud Ke Vav Ke. No longer any concealment. Und in dem besteht eine von die Uftuen von der Geula Asida auf der Geula von Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now, in this regard, this is one of the advantages, so to say, that the future redemption through the Messiah has over the redemption from Egypt. Begulas Mitzrayim is the idea von Mitzrayim, wie jede Mitzrayim kenne Havaya, gekommen durch die Makis v'kayetze bazeh. Durch Brechen Mitzrayim. See, from the Exodus from Egypt, how did they come to that recognition? God told Moses they're going to know Havaya. All right? How did they come to know Havaya? By the plagues, by beating them, by smashing them. So they became believers by force, by being beaten, and really beaten badly. Here is where we say there's a difference between the future redemption. Yes, we compare it to Egypt, and just like there, by nature, they have one level, but they were privy to then get the revelation of Yud Ke Vav Ke. Fine. But in the future, there's a difference. What's going to happen in the future? Like the verse we just quoted, that every flesh will see together that the mouth of Yud Kei Vav Kei has spoken. Not through plagues and breaking, nor b'derech tikkun, but on the contrary, through fixing, not breaking. And again, to re-quote the words of Maimonides, what's Mashiach going to do? Mashiach is going to correct, he will fix the world. And as the verse in Tzfania says, that all will call out in the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei and serve him in unison. So it's all going to be done in a fixing way, not in a smashing, breaking way. What's the reason for this difference? How come by Egypt it had to be through plagues and smashing and breaking and killing and etc.? And how come in the future redemption it's going to be through fixing? Gulas Mitzrayim is nit given kein Gula Shlema. The redemption from Egypt was not a complete redemption. Also with regards to the divine presence of God, it wasn't a complete redemption. Und der Pfarr hat das gepeilt auf Mitzrayim, welche hat gehad nor a Shvira, und nicht kein Tikkun v'zichuch, beloi zan inyan von Yedia ken Yavaya. Therefore, the effect that it had on Mitzrayim was only the knowledge that ani Havaya. Beforehand, they couldn't even relate to the fact that God is Yud Kei Vav Kei, supernatural, and now they could. And that was only through breaking them, not through anything positive. However, by the complete redemption of the future, that as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, chapter 36, that at that time, the physicality of the body and of the entire world will become refined. So then it won't be an additional something or something superimposed on the human being. That right now, the nature of the non-Jew at least is such and such. But because of the miracles of Egypt and all the smashing and all this, now you're able to see something beyond. We broke your shell. In the future to come, it's not going to be from breaking, it won't be from any shell. There's going to be a major shift. There's going to be a change in your physical nature. Now your eyes and every part of you will perceive the truth. All right, now let's get back to the Yud Tes Kislev story and Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. Al pi zeh, based on all of the above, this lengthy introduction, is movan euch benegeya zu Yud Tes Kislev, was der Alter Rebbe is matkish b'michtavi de peula auf die Sorim v'amim. Now we can also understand with regards to the 19th of Kislev, which the Alter Rebbe emphasizes in his letter, the effect that his redemption, the story of Yud Tes Kislev, had on the officers and on the nations. V'onu v'omru al zois ki imei savai hoisa zois niflos benenu. Again, quoting the letter, that the nations of the world said about this, that this came from Havaya, and this is wondrous in our eyes. Das was the Yula von Yud Tes Kislev is achona v'hakadama. That which the redemption of the 19th of Kislev is a preparation and an introduction, uvemeile me'ein, and therefore it is a miniature, in a microcosmic way, it is der Giulu Hasida Kanal. It is the future redemption, like we said. The Likkutei Sichos, so therefore it's expressed, noisaf, in der etzem Geula von dem alten Rebbe und Torah Chasidus, nor euch weiker, in dem was hiflo Hashem veigdil lases baretz vifli veigdil shmoy agadol v'akadosh asher niskadel v'niskadesh barabim u'befrat be'enei kol asorim v'chol ha'amim. Not only is it with regards to the Alter Rebbe and his philosophy and his teachings and his conduct and Chasidus, not just that. The effect and the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev is with regards to the nations of the world, how they recognize and they see and they perceive and they understand and they are in awe. Wow, this is miraculous, and it comes from Havaya. That's Alter Rebbe's emphasis there in the letter. Then what did the nations of the world say? What was their reaction? This came from Yud Kei Vav Kei. As die Niflois Havaya seinen euch zu sei anplegt geworden, that the wonders of Yud Kei Vav Kei of Havaya, that which transcends nature, the true God, became revealed to them. Now we have a rule that any event, any holiday on the Jewish calendar, when that date comes by, it happens again. It's not only commemorative. Every Jewish holiday that we celebrate is not only to commemorate something of the past, but actually it's rehappening. Whatever godly revelation took place on that particular date in the original event is happening again. Literally, the event only happened back then. It's not happening now. But the godly revelation that transpired and took place and came into the world back then happens again every year on that particular date of whatever we're talking about. Be it Passover with the Exodus of Egypt, be it the story of Purim or Chanukah or whatever. And in this case, Yud Tes Kislev. Ubifrat benegei Yud Tes Kislev, and particularly with regard to the 19th of Kislev, was beloschen von Alten Rebben, and to quote the exact language of the Alter Rebbe himself, Ze hayoim, this day of the 19th of Kislev, Yukva shall be established, lemoyed tmidi, for a constant festival, be Yisrael amongst the Jews, asher bo yiskadol v'yiskadesh shmei Rabbah, that on this day will be glorified and sanctified the great name of God. Is move on. As bechol shana v'shana darf men nemen an asinas koyach ve'ira in the Avodah Anal was the Alter Rebbe bringt a ris b'michtovei. So from this is understood that every single year on the 19th of Kislev we need to we receive a new strength. So we need to take the strength and do this service, this godly service, what Alter Rebbe is referring to in this letter of his that he's writing to Levi Yitzchak Barditchev about the effect that Yud Tes Kislev has on the nations of the world. Das heißt, this means to say, Nois auf dem, was der Tag, Gita Teis vis Chayus vis Chaskus in der Avodah von Afotzes Hamayonos Chutza. In addition to the fact that this day of Yud Tes Kislev gives you renewed vigor and strength to be able to do the service of spreading the wellsprings of Chassidus outward, wherever any and every individual's hand can reach, wherever you can reach to spread Chassidus, Yud Tes Kislev is giving you the power and the strength. Go for it. More and bigger and better than you've ever done before. Because now it's Yud Tes Kislev, which we've never had this Yud Tes Kislev yet. This Yud Tes Kislev of this year is only once. Darf men zen, in addition to that, we need to see, as es soll sein iskadel viskadesh barabim shmoy agadol. Oich zwischen oilam. The job and the responsibility that we have is to see to it that God's great, exalted, holy name should become publicized and great and exalted in public amongst the non-Jews as well. The nations of the world. That ministers and the nations, as the Alter Rebbe writes, should witness, should see, and then should come to the realization and proclamation and announce that this is from Yud Kei Vav Kei, from God. Vastos is koilel, and this that we're saying that Yud Tes Kislev is supposed to give us this new energy and this new service. This includes Neusaf auf dem Kiyum von Psak Din Baruch Shel HaRambam, in addition to the fulfillment of a clear and explicit ruling of Maimonides, as Tziva Moshe Rabbeinu mipiya gvura lakuf es kol boi oilam lekabel mitzvahs shinstavu b'nei Noach, that Moses, our teacher, has commanded from God that the Jews have to force all the people of the world to accept the commandments that they were commanded as the sons of Noah. To the extent that we are to see to it that the non-Jewish world keeps these commandments specifically because they're divine, they're God-given, through Moses to the nations of the world. Besides that, but what's also necessary for us to take from Yud Tes Kislev, the shtadlus, the effort, to mefarsim sein, to publicize, zwischen umois ha'olam, amongst the nations of the world, the emuna in achtus havaya, the belief in the oneness, in the unity of God. Wie das kommt mitzad dem Gilui von Shem Havaya, as this comes from the revelation of the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Wie der Alter Rebbe erklärt Baruch Besifroi, Tanya Kadisha B'Shar Yichud V'Amuna, as the Alter Rebbe explains in length in his holy book of the Tanya, in the section called Shar Yichud V'Amuna. Rebbe Melech HaMashiach is telling us over here something quite incredible. Normally, in the earlier sources, it says that the Jew, you see, has one mitzvah, and that is to believe in God. Then the Jew has another mitzvah. It's a separate mitzvah out of the 613. They count as two separate commandments. Then the Jew has the mitzvah to believe, to understand in the oneness, in the unity of God. And they're derived from two different verses. Believe in God in general is from the opening words of the Ten Commandments, when God introduces himself and gives us the Torah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God, who has taken you out of Egypt, etc. Then we have a different verse. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Echad. That is Achdus Hashem. Normally, we say the non-Jew is not obligated to believe in Achdus Hashem. As a matter of fact, without getting into it, we've discussed this a long time ago, one of our earlier classes, with regards to Shituf, to basically believing in God, but believing in other, or not the oneness. Ultimately, there's God, but. So the question is, if you're using these intermediates, is that allowed for a Ben Noach? And it's questionable, and it's discussed, and it's argued. The Rambam says what he says, the Shulchan Aruch says one thing in one place, and it's discussed. Everybody agrees it's not ideal, and a non-Jew should not serve God in a way of shituf. God has no partnership, no other deity. But if a non-Jew is taking that approach and does believe that, that may not technically be a transgression of the 7 Noachide commandments. All right. A non-Jew can only relate to God as Elokim. He has to believe in God. But Achdus Hashem, the oneness of God, and here the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach is telling us that what we take from the 19th of Kislev, from this letter of the Alter Rebbe, is not only to spread and promote the fulfillment of the 7 Noachide commandments, not only to get the non-Jewish world to believe in one God, Achdus Hashem, in Hashem Echad, because ultimately that's what's going to be by the future redemption. V'ro kol basar ki pi havaya diber. All flesh will see Yud-Kei Vav-Kei speaking. Well, that's what's going to happen, and Yud Tes Kislev is the forerunner for that. And the Alter Rebbe is making a big deal out of the impression that Yud Tes Kislev story had on the nations of the world. Well, then that's what we're supposed to be involved with. Was das is a Teil von der Geula von Yud Tes Kislev. This is a part of the redemption of the 19th of Kislev. Unachana zu der Geula aklolis v'ashleima. And it's a preparation for the general and complete redemption. As Achdus Hashem. That the oneness, the unity of God, as it is in its true sense, the way it is by the Jews. There is no other existence outside of God. That belief, that understanding, that life, that experience, that there's nothing other than God. I don't exist as a separate entity. I am not merely a created entity that God creates every moment. Nothing exists. All there is God. That level, Ubelashon Rambam, and to quote Maimonides, right at the beginning, first chapter, Hu levadoi ha'emes. He, capital H, he alone is the only truth. Ve'ein lacher emes kamitosoi. Nothing else has a truth like his truth. Everything else is a relative truth. V'hu shatera imeres, and this is what the Torah refers to when it says in the book of Deuteronomy, in V'eschanon, chapter 4, Ein oid milvadoi. There isn't any other except for God. Nothing else other than him. That's how the Rambam is bringing in that verse. That's the meaning of the verse. There's nothing outside of God. Kloimar, says the Rambam, Ein sham matzui emes milvadoi k'moisoi. Nothing is as true as God. Other existence are false. They may seem to exist. They are not the true existence. Now, again, until now, that type of to demand such a philosophy, to believe such a thing, traditionally, if you go back to the texts and to the sources, that was something which is demanded of the Jew and not of the non-Jew. You may have exceptional non-Jews that reached this belief and they came to that conclusion. That could be. But as far as an obligation, what do we need to strive towards? What do we need to educate the children, the non-Jewish world? This is a Jewish belief. This is the level that a Jew is supposed to be on. Now we're saying, Soll das euch leichten und mefursam werden zwischen Olam. This should also illuminate and become public knowledge by the nations of the world. The Rebbe Melech HaMashiach is now teaching us that the Alter Rebbe's letter of Yud Tes Kislev is bringing the redemption, the future redemption, to the non-Jews. They're part of it. We know they're going to be part of it. Well, starting now. Yud Tes Kislev's message is, hey Jew, tell the non-Jewish world the whole truth, the entire truth. Don't say, well, this is what I teach my Jewish disciples. This is what I tell my Jewish children. But then, when I go out there to educate the non-Jews, I have a different message. It's not a lie. I just don't tell them the whole truth because they're not ready for it. They're not vessels for it. That's old school. Now, the non-Jew is ready to hear the entire truth, just like the Jew. And now, if I walk into a public school where 100% of the student body are non-Jews, all sorts of nationalities, all sorts of colors and shapes and who knows what, they're all not Jewish. I, as a Jew, have a mandate to bring them the same message that I have to give when I walk into what's called a cheder, a Talmud Torah, a yeshiva, a ultra-Orthodox Hasidic school for little Jewish children, which are, in many cases, in a bubble, secluded from the secular world. It's amazing. I go there to the Jewish children to the extreme, ultra, whatever, observant Jewish, whatever you want to label them as, and I teach them about the oneness of God. And nothing else exists. There's only one truth, and that's God and God alone. And then I go to the public school, just a few blocks away. And I bring the same exact message, and I teach them the same exact thing. Perhaps I have to explain it differently or get to it differently, whatever, because of background, whatever it may be. I may be speaking one language to the Jew and a different language to the non-Jew. Fine. But the belief in God has to be the same. That's the message of Yud Tes Kislev for the Jew and for the nations of the world. And now let's conclude the Sicha. Und chotsch, as the kama deyois, seine bnei noach mitzaratzmem, muzer nor oif avodah zara, unit oif shituf, and even though, at least according to some opinions, bnei noach, the non-Jews, they're not commanded more than the prohibition against idolatry. They're not allowed to worship any other deity, but they're not commanded about shituf. Many say that they don't have to believe like we just described. That's not what's required of them. And they're allowed to believe in God as long as they believe in God, even though they have some other, warped ideas. Is doch der Perush in them nor as they seien nicht musar auf them. But even according to those opinions which say that they're allowed to, it just means that they're not commanded and that they have to believe in God like that. Sie so pshito as beshas bei sei wert der hert euch der Ringen von Shliras Hashituv bis zu haben epis hakarid achtus Hashem as enet milvadoi is das moisif sai in seire zehirus veiler bekium sein mitzvus bnei noach mit alle seire snifim und sai in seir arui self in eden bechol in yoneim beyadus bechol itzarchusam bichlal. But no one's going to argue, obviously, at least to give them a little bit of this level of belief in the one Hashem, in Achdus Hashem, in the absolute truth, that there is nothing other than God. That will add in their adherence, in their care, in the fulfillment of the 7, which everybody agrees they have to keep. And also in their assistance to the Jews in all of their matters of Judaism and all of their needs in general. So everyone's gonna benefit. The Jew will also benefit the more the non-Jews understand the absolute truth of God. Und die zwei Auftungen seinen Hakdama. Now these two accomplishments are an introduction, which also hastens the time of the future redemption. Then beidin yanim velen sein b'shleimus. When both of these things are going to be in the most complete, in the full, perfect way. Namely, as the verse says, v'nigla kvoid avaya, that the glory, the honor of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, will be revealed. V'ro chol basar yachtov kipi avaya diber, and every flesh will see all together that God has spoken. Kanal, like we said above. And what's the second point? V'amdu zarim v'ro tzeinchem, that outsiders, foreigners, meaning the non-Jews, are going to stand and they will be the shepherds. They will pasture your sheep. The non-Jews are going to be doing this for the Jew. Und das ist der Ruftu von der Geula von Yud Tes Kislev als Achona zu der Geula Asida. And this is the accomplishment, the innovation of the redemption of Yud Tes Kislev back in 1798 as a preparation for the future redemption, the Messianic Redemption. Durch dem, was hifli v'higdil shmei agadol v'kadosh cholu, bifrat beinei kol asorim v'cholu amim, through the fact that God has shown these amazing, miraculous, wondrous things, and His name has become glorified and sanctified particularly amongst the non-Jewish ministers and nations, that also in their eyes this is very wondrous. So they saw that in addition to the fact that nature, with all the laws of nature, has absolutely no say and no power in and of itself, in addition to that, they also got the message that they and everything and anything have no existence and are totally, absolutely meaningless and irrelevant when it comes to things connected to God. If this is what God wants, everything else is irrelevant and non-existent. Was das ist der Gilui von Achtus Havaya, wie das ist, nicht mit Zad Shem Elokim B'Gematria Teva, uve Meile, was ist sich vistabish in Teva, nor mit Zad Shem Havaya Shlomayla mit Teva. So this experience that the non-Jews witnessed by the Yud Tes Kislev story, this is in fact a revelation of the unity of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, way beyond nature, and it's not the name Elokim, but it's as is expressed by the God which is totally beyond nature. Und derfar, and therefore, Anu ve'omru, they all responded and they said, Me'es Havaya, hiniflos beinenu. From God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, this has happened, and it is wondrous, it is amazing in our eyes. Customarily, with regards to Yud Tes Kislev, the blessing that we wish each other is Gut Yom Tiv, and may you be written and inscribed, sealed, for a good year in the study of Chassidus and in the ways of Chassidus. And again, traditionally, till now, this was a wish that a Chassid would give to a fellow Chassid, let alone another Jew, to a non-Jew. But now Yud Tes Kislev is the festival for not only Hasidim, not only all the Jews, everybody. So we're all on board, and may we all merit not only the near future, but immediately to have the complete and ultimate and full revelation of Mashiach, when the entire world will serve God in unison. Thank you.